this is Scott with Learn to Stop Hunger, and today we're going to look at the first video in a new series. Series being, publish your first game this weekend with no-cost AI tooling. So we're going to be building a game from scratch with the assistance of some free AI tooling, and we can even publish the game for free with the first option that we'll do, which is itch.io. And then if you choose, you can also publish to the Microsoft Store. I'll provide some details on that, although there is a small fee for doing that. So the first thing I want to talk about in this video, step one, is brainstorming. And what I would say is, for your first game, you want to start simple. So what I've done in the past is we want to look for basically Atari 2600 single screen games. And then I go over to Google Images and I can get an idea, a few ideas of some of these games. So I'm going to click on one. Here we have, I believe this is Space Invader, so that would be one good example that could be easily achieved. Basically, you control a ship that goes side to side and it shoots these moving aliens. You've got some barriers to protect you. Another popular one to remake, of course, is Pac-Man. And you just have the single screen here, and this is your Pac-Man, the yellow guy, and he just moves around and eats the power pellets, and your goal is to try to clear all those pellets. And then another example, let's see, here's one. This is one that I used to play in the past. It's called Dodge 'em, and it's a racing game where you go along a track on the screen and you need to switch tracks when you get to one of these breaks, and your goal is to try to avoid crashing into the computer car. And for our example, I actually think I'm going to try to remake this game. Well, the only thing I will say about this too, I would also recommend to add a little bit of a twist. So it's, I should say, instead of remaking, the game will be inspired by Dodge 'em, but we're going to add our own twist to it. And I always recommend that you do that so that it's not just exactly like the other game. So the next thing I would look at, this gives you an example. If you're not familiar with a game too, I would say go ahead and go onto YouTube and do a search and for that particular game and find some gameplay footage so that you can get a better idea of how it actually plays. Obviously a stationary screen is a bit difficult to deal with as far as getting an idea of how it plays. But if you watch a video, that's definitely going to be better for you. The next thing that I would do is to see what kind of game assets are available. And this is kind of assuming that you're not going to be, or maybe you're not an extremely artistic person yourself. I know that I'm not. So I like to use some of the kind of public domain game assets that are out there. It makes building the game a lot easier for me. So what you do is, as you saw there, I went to itch.io in the web browser. I'm going to go ahead and click on Game Assets, and then I will select Sprites. And then finally, I'm going to go in here and select a tag, Racing. And what I'm looking for is, well, I'm looking for overhead car sprites. Okay, so there's definitely some options here. From my past experience, I found that 64 by 64 sprites are pretty easy to work with. Just looking at some of the options. Let's see, so here we have a lot of different cars. And you kind of look through here and see if it will tell you the size. Right now I'm not seeing the size. Another thing I'd say you want to look for is look at the licensing info and think about how are you going to use this game. So here it says about you can use or edit these assets for personal and commercial use in your own products, but you cannot directly resell or redistribute the assets. Giving credit is not necessary but is appreciated. So, I mean, I'm thinking about this too. You know, basically, if you want to, for my purposes right here, I'm not going to be selling this game, but you want to pay attention. If you are going to sell a game, you want to look at these licenses and see, you know, is it allowed for commercial usage? So there is a fee for this one. A lot of these actually have no fees, but this you would need to pay £1 or higher. So if we go back and look at some of the other ones, let's see, Sprite Stack Cars. Now these look really nice. Once again, I'm not certain about the size of these, so that could be a concern. The licensing though, let's see, what do we have here? Okay. Looks like a lot of questions and action on this one. There's no information about the licensing on this one. So this one is actually free. You don't have to pay anything for it, but you can provide a donation for it, and that would be ideal if you do that. I'm sure the author would appreciate it. So I would consider this an option possibly. And then this one for sure, it looks like that's 64 by 64. Let's see, license. This would definitely work. Read the license. I don't have anything listed on this page for the license, so I guess you'd have to download and look at that. But anyway, having looked at these, I can see at least we do have some options out here. So this is probably, I guess I'm doing that to kind of vet out, is this a good option for me in terms of are there assets available that would make building this game fairly easy? I think the answer is yes, so I think we're good to proceed forward. That's all that I have for this video, and we'll go ahead and look at the next video, which will be installing the tooling that is needed to go ahead and build our game.